I was at my sister's, so I had like a sample. Hi, Enrique.
How are you?
I had a sample just from like the pet store because I didn't have her food, so that just like wrecked her system, I guess.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So anyway.
How's she doing otherwise?
She's doing good. Well, actually, we were at my parents, and she didn't have the collar on because my parents, they were like, she doesn't have the collar, so it's on the whistle. And I lost that battle. And then there was a dog going down the road. She went after the dog, then my dad whistled, and then my parents' dog Sunny went after the dog, so then she thought the dog was a threat, and then she went up to the dog who was also aggressive, and she grabbed its ear and like pinched its ear.
Okay.
So the lesson learned was like remote collar, obviously, or like leash before crossing the street. So that's where we're at.
Okay. I'm sorry, that dog was off leash?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's not your problem.
Yeah.
You know, like just.
It was out in the country, so it was kind of like.
Yeah. I mean, I get that, but at the same time, like, when I get my dogs or dog reactive or dog aggressive and stuff like that, and shit like that happens, I tell the owner, "Was your dog on a leash?" They're like, "Yeah." You know, like if they can't control their dog, that's one problem. Right. Two, I get, country or city or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, for me, a dog should be off leash if you don't have means of, getting them back.
Right.
In your case, obviously there was a conversation there, but you knew, you're like, she should have her collar on, and they're like, no, but now that's a lesson learned for them.
Yeah.
The other thing is that, how'd you say, in a situation like that, like, I don't hold it against the dog.
Right, because like she came when my dad whistled, but then my parents' dog then went after the dog, and my parents' dog is older than her, so he's kind of like an alpha in a way. I mean, she's more dominant than him, but she takes his lead, so she's like, oh, Sunny's going after this dog, so like this dog must be a threat. Yeah. So.
Sure. Yeah, pack mentality.
Yeah, like I didn't blame her for it. I just was like, and sadly I was like not surprised that she acted that way. I was like,
was the owner around?
Yeah.
Okay, what'd they say?
They were like yelling at me.
Yeah.
And they like know my parents, so I paid for the vet bill because I was like, whatever, I felt bad. And but yeah, it was not good. But
I'm sorry, I'm a jerk when it comes to shit like that.
I know.
Because I've heard so many horror stories from clients.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, true.
Like I had a client whose dog was attacked by an off-leash dog 3 times in 2 years, and I thought that was a lot. And then we recently just had a new client that's a former client's sister. Her dog was attacked by an off-leash dog at least 3, if not 4 times by an off-leash dog in the span of 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just like, if you don't have that control, like your dog shouldn't be off leash or whatever.
Right.
So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, personally, I would argue that, but that's me. But okay, so it is what it is. In a situation like that, do you know what you're supposed to do with Elsa?
No, I was like, they were probably 50, like 20, I don't know, 30 yards away. Mm-hmm. So I think he like kicked her.
Sure, to disengage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then I thought my dad was like, because this guy like carries a gun apparently.
Oh, I was gonna shoot.
Hey, off. Yeah, and she's been doing diarrhea all morning. She went diarrhea in the garage too. So
yeah.
That might be why she's.
So was he concerned he was gonna shoot Elsa?
He didn't know. Like it was just like a whole thing.
So it's funny. I started watching this YouTube channel. It's like self-protection stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is what he says is stuff that I teach my dog owners. But one thing that I learned from it was there was a video. Sure, you might have this video here. There's this video where an off-leash dog attacks a guy's daughter, and he uses his knife to kill the dog. And they're talking. He said, like, theoretically speaking, or something like that. Like, what if he shot the dog? And then the lawyer was like, well, in that case, because you're protecting a human life, it wouldn't be a problem because there's rules around concealed carry and stuff.
Yeah.
So then he said, but if the conversation was, he shot the dog to protect his dog from being attacked.
Right.
So that's different because you can't use lethal force to protect property.
Okay.
So there would be some legal issues there.
Okay.
I also learned that typically what the compensation is really whatever the market value of the dog is.
Yeah.
So
Which you like,
if
yeah.
if a dog is going for $100 at the time, then that's like what they owe you. But then I saw another case where there was lethal force use or whatever, and they got like 75 grand or something.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so it
Depends on the lawyer.
yeah. And of course the state and stuff like that.
Right.
But technically, you can't use lethal force to protect property, and dogs are seen as property. They're not seen as, even though she's your, obviously kind of like a family member to
Right,
you.
right.
According to law, she's more so property.
Okay.
So just so you know.
Okay.
Otherwise,
But if she is attacking a dog and I'm right there, like what am I supposed to like do?
is she on or off leash? If she's off leash and collared up, 127 continuous.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then you're probably in a very loud shriek when you go to let go of that remote or that button. Expect it.
Oh, you hold the continuous thing?
127 continuous.
Oh.
Hold it down. Yeah. It'll go
I
for
accidentally hit continuous instead of Nick. But it just, if I wasn't holding it down, like it was not.
Right. So if it's just a little punchier if you just tap it. But if you hold it down up to 12 seconds, it will go for 12 seconds. As soon as you let go, it stops.
Oh,
So it
okay.
doesn't keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I hold that down
Okay.
2 to 3 seconds. Right. When you let go, she's most likely going to attempt to bite again. So you're going to see this kind of return again. 2 to 3 seconds. I let go. And typically by the third time, she'll probably try again. 2 to 3 seconds, the dog will disengage and make complete 180. It's almost always, in my experience, on that third continuous is when they go crap and they go to run.
What if the other dog continues like attacking her?
Then you have to step in.
Okay.
You have to. I'm actually gonna put a video up on my Instagram because we had a dog get off leash and muzzle yesterday and went to attack me and my employees, and we got it on video.
It was a client's dog, or okay.
I just started training the dog a week ago, and they need to go out of town for a day. So I was like, yeah, you can bring her over, just keep her on the muzzle. But they didn't fit it correctly, and she panics and she flips out the muzzle, and then you see her come after everybody, and then you see me step in and take the dog away, make the dog retreat.
Was everyone okay?
Yeah, it was fine. Nobody got bit, and the owners. I told them like, sorry, but I got a awesome.
Yay!
I told them like, I got to protect my employees. They understood. They're like, we get it, because the dog has bitten the family, so she's not.
That's
playing.
the thing. Like, I feel like if I didn't, I don't know. I feel like she could be. She's not great, but I feel like I've been on her ass like since she was born. I don't know. I just feel like she could be a lot worse, but she needs to be better. Anyway.
Yeah, so the control gives you a lot of control.
Yeah.
Remote gives you a lot of control.
Right.
And on my Instagram, I've been reviewing off-leash dog attacks where I give my commentary.
Okay.
What I would do, what was good, what I didn't like, realistically speaking.
Okay.
So I didn't do one this week because there was no internet power because of the stupid storm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I break it down. Okay. So if you're looking for like just knowledge on that stuff, you can always just watch those videos.
Okay.
But if you disengage her and she runs off and the dog is in pursuit, you would have to step in and kick the dog away. A lot of the time, if she's the one that engages and the dog is just in defense mode, when you remove the threat, the dog's just disengage because they don't want the conflict anyways.
Right.
So it's only when the other dog is one of those personalities of like, no, you're not going to correct me type.
Right.
Then that's when it's an escalation. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's like her personality. So the way I look at it is, let's say an off-leash dog came up and attacked Elsa. My thing is, I drop the leash, let Elsa protect herself, and then you help her, right? Go for the hind legs. Move the hind legs so the dogs can't direct their body. If the dog is still engaged, you can disengage him by kicking him in the stomach, and you can wheelbarrow him to the side. As you do that, you can, back off Elsa, and then wait for help or whatever it is. Okay? Because people tend to withdraw their dog, and then the other dog can do a lot more damage.
Right.
And you hold, you tear muscle, and cause multiple bites.
Right.
If she's on a leash and
I have the 30-foot leash.
Okay. If she's on a leash and an off-leash dog comes to her, in the city, technically you're not liable because your dog was on a leash.
Even if it's a 30-foot leash, is that fine?
It's still a leash.
Yeah, it's still fine.
you know, I mean, in my opinion, I would definitely double check that.
Yeah.
But, you know, people like, obviously there are some who are just completely off leash, you know, that might be like kind of a gray area. But technically, for me, I would say that's still a leash, you know, and you still have a reason, you know, if it's not
And if they
stuff.
definitely don't have to shot, then
Yeah. So, but in that case, if she bit an off-leash dog coming towards her, you know, I always prevent, like right there when that dog came around, you saw me right away, and then she stepped in.
Right.
And then when the other dog looped around, I stepped in again. I'm always put myself in the
It
middle.
was 2 different dogs?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, those 2 different dogs. That happens all the time here.
Yeah.
I mean, I have about 30 clips of off-leash dogs.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Yeah, I thought, yeah.
You saw the video?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the main thing would be like always straight up
Yeah.
to the point where you're picking her up off the ground, because then she can't.
Right.
They-
I've had to do
direct-
that with her before.
yeah.
Yeah.
Put yourself in the middle, and don't be afraid to use your feet with intent, you know, to get the dog to disengage, go away.
Right.
Doesn't matter if we're friendly or not. I don't give
Or
crap.
yell at them.
Yeah, or like that BS, like my dog's friendly. Like, you know, get your fucking dog.
Yeah.
You know, be blunt.
And I'm like, mine's not.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, any questions about that? Alrighty, so let's go ahead and pop that 30 foot on her,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna have Enrique here help you,
Oh, okay.
because we need the recall's a 2-person exercise.
Okay.
There was another off-leash dog coming this way, another poodle.
Hi.
Be mindful. The poodle? Yeah. And you're gonna leave your leash, your first leash on as well.
Okay.
Is there any poop bag on it, holder or anything?
No.
Okay, cool. So,
And I have one more poop bag left, so I'm hoping
no more.
she's probably gone like 20 times in the last.
Hopefully, I had a
4
dog
hours.
have diarrhea and poop in the backseat of my car once.
Oh God.
That was
I
gross.
was happy she didn't do it on the couch, but it was all over like the new rug. I was like, oh my God.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway. Okay.
So go ahead and let your long leash go. Go completely out.
Okay.
And then Enrique is going to take the end of the short leash here.
Sit. Stay.
All right. So what we're going to do here is, does Elsa have any kind of recall at all?
Yeah.
She does? All right, so we're going to avoid the word for now, because we want to teach her that remote means to come to you. Okay? What's your number? That remote means to return.
Okay.
What's your number?
20.
20? Okay. So what we're going to do here is, you're going to, since she's already kind of moving towards you, what you're going to do is you're going to start tapping, and you're going to move,
now? Oh.
not yet, and you're going to move backwards as you're tapping. Okay? When Elsa starts running towards you, you'll stop tapping, and then come to a stop. And as she's moving towards you, you're going to reel in your leash. Okay? Don't worry about reeling it all in.
Okay.
You just want to reel it in so that you shorten it, so that she doesn't have 30 feet of slack to run all over the place.
Sorry, she's chewing the leash. Okay.
Yeah, she's just really attached to you. Okay? So when I say tap, you'll start pressing the button. Okay? So we're gonna wait a second.
Okay.
Wait. Tap. 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 Now drop. Tap. Tap. That's good. And praise.
Do I?
Praise. You're gonna say break. Good. And then we're gonna repeat that 4 times. Wait. Tap. Tap. Drop. Back. Now wait right there. Give a tap.
Give a tap? Really?
Tap. Now praise. To get the auto sit. Now break. Good. 3 more. Tap. Tap. Drop. Back. Now praise. Yeah. 2 more. I wonder if she's gonna poop. I think you're good. Yeah. Tap, 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 and back. Tap. Good. Praise. Break. Good. Let's go to move it a little bit more this way. That's good. And we're gonna wait.
Doing it again?
Yeah, one more. Tap, tap, and back. Good. And praise. Good. Now, hold the end of your leash.
The long one or
The long one.
Okay.
And leave it slack.
Okay.
And just say heel and walk forward.
Yep.
Then slow to a stop when you're ready. There you go. Okay. So that's just because you're doing 12 classes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So because you get off-leash control, right?
Right.
Is we start that as soon as we start going to long leash phase,
Yeah.
we start practicing heel, transitioning towards off-leash. Okay?
Okay.
So that's just to give you an idea.
Right.
So a little sneak peek.
Okay.
So right there, we weren't saying anything, right? Now, it's partially her attachment to you,
Yeah.
right? But it's fine. But once she felt that tap, that's shooting towards you.
You're right.
So we were just making sure that it's the tap that's causing her to move to you,
Yeah.
and not the fact that we would call her.
Right.
So like if you did say, Elsa, come, tap, I'm like, is she responding to
Right.
the verbal cue or
Because
she's
if
responding
she's
to a
like
tap?
100 yards away.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're just making sure that she's knowing what to do with that
Okay.
remote pressure.
Yeah.
So the way she interprets what the e-collar is within that time is the way the world looks at her at the moment.
Yeah.
So when you're in heel, if I'm Elsa, this is you. If you pass her up and you tap, she thinks, oh, I need to come here.
Right.
Okay. And if you come to a stop and she forgets to sit and you tap her, she goes, oh, I'm supposed to be like this, right? So here she's 30 feet away. So now we're teaching her at 30 feet away, tap means to return.
Right.
Okay. The movement back is important because it gives her something to attach to.
Yeah.
So like let's say she was 100 feet out, she can't hear you.
Yeah.
You tap, her first response should be, where's mom? She sees you,
Yeah.
and then she sees this, right? That's like the visual cue of return to me, okay?
Okay.
So you will always do the backing away.
Okay.
At least 3 steps, and then more if needed,
Okay.
okay? So all of these are straight shots.
Yeah.
It may not always be that way.
Right.
So like let's say Elsa came to you but passed you up.
Right.
What you would do is you would pivot to face her and then move back.
Okay.
And let's say she came to you but went that way, you would then turn to face her and move this way.
Okay.
So always facing Elsa, but
Yeah.
always moving away from Elsa. Okay. Now whenever you're moving away from her, you are tapping until you see her lock on. Once she's locked on, then you can stop the movement, stop the tapping, let her finish.
Okay.
So it's pressure on, right?
Okay.
She's moving away, and as soon as we get this response of running to mom, then we take that pressure off so she knows that that's what you were looking for.
Okay.
Okay? Questions so far about this?
Yeah, so when I'm at my parents', because I've been doing that with her if she's like in the woods or whatever, and I'm, like I was saying come and then whatever, so I should have just not said come, I should just tap. But if she's like coming towards me, I can't, this is where my mom and I like argue, because I'm like, until I see her, like I'm gonna tap, and she was like, but she's coming, and I was like, well, I don't know if she's coming until
Oh, sure. Like you had no visual of her?
So if I can't see her, is it fine if I'm tapping until I can see her?
Yes and no.
Or just not let her get out of my sight, usually?
So the only issue with the continuous tapping
Yeah.
is if you've not proofed the recall yet. Okay?
Okay.
So what can happen is if you're tapping
Yeah.
and you can't see her and she's actively making her way towards you,
Right.
in the beginning it might deflect her.
Yeah.
Because she might be thinking, look for mom, but then since it didn't go away, she
Right.
thinks maybe this is wrong.
Right.
So when we proof it, then it doesn't matter because she knows remote means return no
Right.
matter what.
Usually I'll do it like 1 or 2 times. Like I don't think I've been doing it when I can't see her for a while. Like usually she'll come out of like the brush or wherever she is. And,
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
be fine.
So-
But, okay, that's good to know that if she's not around for a while, they give her some time
Right.
to find
And
it.
it should be pretty quick.
Yeah.
You know, like if you tap and like 10 seconds go by, that's a really long time.
Right.
You know, so because dogs move very quickly, so it should be seconds
Right.
that you should see her, you know, come out that
Right,
brush and
right,
stuff.
right.
And then once you get her visual, I'd start reversing
Right.
to like, hey, you need to get over here.
Right,
Okay.
right, okay.
And we'll talk more about like the nuances of e-collar,
Right.
because you can make her come back closer without the full return. Because recall is get over here.
Right.
But if the dog's just too far, and I don't want them that far, but I don't want them all the way here, you're too far, come a little bit closer. Okay? So you can,
Which I do want to do, or I don't want to do that yet.
yeah, you can do that. Once
Okay.
once we cover the recall, you can do that.
Okay.
The concern is before recall, if she gets confused or panics, you're going to deflect her.
Okay.
But that's why we do long leash stuff and all that.
Right, right,
Okay?
okay.
Other questions?
Nope.
All right, so she was doing good.
Okay.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to add in the word Elsa. You know, Elsa come.
Okay.
Everything's going to stay the same.
Okay.
You're going to give the verbal cue first.
Yeah.
Elsa come, immediately followed by a tap and moving backwards. Okay?
Okay.
She's most likely going to respond to the Elsa, right? So if she responds before you can get a tap in, you're still going to tap.
Okay.
Okay? So this is about the proofing I was talking about.
Yeah.
So if I'm Elsa and running away, you call me and I start moving and then you tap here, what do you think might happen?
It would be confusing for her, right?
Yeah, she's gonna think maybe that was wrong.
Right.
Starts moving away.
Right.
So we do this intentionally at this stage to force that response.
Okay.
So if I go Elsa come tap and I'm doing that every single time I call her, I'm more likely to create that moment,
Okay.
right? Where most people go Elsa come, she responds and they don't tap, right? Which I get.
Right.
But we're trying to force that issue so that we can proof it.
Right.
So if she does deflect, I keep the pressure on as I'm moving backwards to bring her back towards you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we're gonna do stuff as we go along where I say we're gonna force the issue or force a mistake.
Right.
Because when she's off, like right now she's on leash, there's no worry.
Right.
She's not gonna go anywhere, right?
Right.
I wanna proof all that stuff now
Yeah.
so that when she's completely off leash, if we create that moment, we've already done it,
Right.
we're gonna have a much higher chance of success.
Okay.
We won't even, ideally not even see that moment because we've already worked through it,
Right.
you know, type of stuff.
Yeah.
And the other thing is for the handler, when you're in an emergency type situation, it goes beyond obedience. It
Right.
gets emotional. People are under stress. People are anxious. People
Yeah.
are nervous. The dog is freaking out. The dog is in panic mode, and you have to make it work, right?
Yeah.
So when you do this stuff on the long leash, we remove again that factor of what happens if she's not going to run away.
Right.
Okay, so just things to think about. Okay.
Okay.
So Enrique's we're gonna release Elsa. We're gonna say break,
Break.
and so it's gonna be the same exercise except this time Elsa come, tap, right as you move back, and then when she locks on, you can stop the pressure,
Okay.
stop the movement.
Her butt is probably so influential. I feel bad for you, Val.
Right. Yep. Gonna wait a sec. Wait.
Elsa, come.
Good. Right there. Good girl.
Elsa, come.
Good. Tap. Good. 3 more. Let's go ahead and change up the direction. We'll go sideways here. Good. Is that the 20?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll leave it there for now.
No, it's higher. Oopsie.
What was it at?
Is that 39?
Okay. Let's try it. Put it back to 35.
Okay.
And we're gonna try that again. We're gonna see, because she's doing good on the 20, right? When you do the next one, Elsa come with a higher power, I wanna see what she does.
Okay, I might have just done it now.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
It's crazy how I'll tell you about it, but I had it on higher power with like barking at dogs and she like doesn't even
Okay, we'll talk about that.
recognize it, but then if like I accidentally have it on higher instead, she'll like yell and obviously
Yeah,
a command or distraction or whatever.
exactly.
Elsa, come.
Tap. Go ahead and here, just say heel and walk forward. Tap. Keep forward, yep. Good. Slow to stop. There you go. Break, we'll do 2 more. And you're at the 35, right?
Yeah.
On this next one,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you do Elsa come. Elsa come, tap, tap, tap.
Okay.
Okay, you're gonna do 3 rapid fire taps. So we're gonna see what she does. Keep that leash in your hand.
Elsa, come.
Right? Break, we're gonna do 1 more. And then you're gonna just do a normal one, okay?
One more of the rapid fire.
No, a regular recall. 20, you can go with 20. I'll explain what I was doing there.
Okay. Elsa, come.
Good. And then heel and walk forward. Tap, tap. Keep walking. Tap, 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 tap. Keep going. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 tap. There she goes. Good. Go ahead and yeah, bump it. Walk this way. Tap, tap, tap. There she goes. And slow to stop.
Good girl.
All right. So what I was doing there on that 4th one with the rapid fire, boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
was I was trying to force.
Yeah.
So the more
For
pressure,
her to not. Oh, force mistake for her to.
either deflect,
Oh, okay.
panic, and shut down.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but instead she shot forward, right?
Right.
So that was just an experiment.
Okay.
Because her speed's really good in terms of the return and everything like that, leaving and responding to the cue is really good.
Right.
So realistically speaking, from client experiences, just personal experiences, when we've had stuff happen,
Yeah.
is you might be 127 continuous,
Yeah.
early, right, with the aggression kind of stuff.
Right.
But it happens for recall as well.
Yeah.
For example, me personally, had a client, we're in the South Loop on Grant Park where the walking legs are, right across from Michigan.
Yeah.
And we were in the shade of me, 2 clients, and the dog, and he just stood up and booked it and was running toward Michigan because they lived across the street.
Yeah.
And I had the remote, thankfully, but the owners booked it running, and I just cranked it to 100, and I was doing continuous, and I did though. I said it 3 times, and then finally the dog looked around and ran to his home before he hit Michigan, right? So, and we had literally just covered recall,
Yeah.
that class,
Right.
okay? And the owners, they got him, obviously everybody's shooken up. They're like, why that happened? And I think it was a really hot day. It was blazing hot.
Yeah.
And he's like, fuck this. And I just booked like homes right there.
Right.
But clearly do not want to run towards Michigan.
Right.
So in that moment, it wasn't about obedience. It was about how do I make the dog deter. Right. So here, with that 35, it's technically an unfair hit.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm thinking, all right, I'm gonna go to 35 because I saw how much she responded on that little hit for the sit.
Yeah.
How she like whipped into position. And then I go, okay, let me see what happens if she does 3, which I was expecting to yip, but I was expecting yip and like panic and I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Which I would have then tap, moving backwards and going, get over here.
Right.
So you're kind of dabbling with higher power to timer for that. So like my guys,
if she like attacks the dog and I'm trying to,
exactly.
or if she sprints out. Okay, that makes sense.
I had another client. I was actually here over there. Her dog is completely friendly, but her dog and another dog went after a tennis ball at the same time, and the dog went after her dog, and then it sparked into a fight. And she said, Jesse, because she called me, she's like, I'm sorry. She's like, but I want to know if this was correct. This happened. I went to 127 continuous, and Roxy screamed, but she came right back to me. And I said that was something correct.
Yeah.
Because you prevented a dog fight from escalating.
Right.
You also prevented people from getting hurt because most people jump in the fight and then they get bit because they're trying to intervene. I was like, it sucks emotionally because she's like, it felt really bad, or she was shrieking, you know. I'm like, right, but you got to think about tension, exactly, right? So, and that actually, she had to do that twice with her dog. One was here, and one was at another park where her dog took off after a rabbit towards the street, and then she had to 127 continuous, and she said she saw her shoot up in the air, hit the ground, and then fucking book it right back to her. And I'm like, that's why we do e-collar.
Yeah.
Obedience is functional when there's nothing going on, really. Like, and if there is, like, your typical stuff, you know? Like, if I have a friendly social dog with the dog park type of stuff, and all, right? But when you need it to absolutely work, off-leash dog attack, chasing after a rabbit running towards the street, you know, something happens at the dog park, there's going to be in those ranges. And if you do it out of context, one, for her, she learned, like right now, she's like 35, rapid fire is run back, right? So then later on, if you do that, she's already going to have an association. But the other thing is the owner feels bad. Right? So something I tell a lot of clients to do is...
I don't feel as bad with her being attacked, you know, weeks ago.
Right.
But yeah, probably if that wouldn't have happened, I'd probably feel more bad. I'm still in the...
Yeah, you're still in
love
the...
her,
like,
but not feeling as bad right now.
So, like what I'll tell my clients to do, I'll say like, you know, have your dog on a long leash, and then jack up the collar to 127, and then randomly one day just remote on 127, and see what the dog does, right? And they're like, why? I'm like, because when you need the dog to respond, you're going to be at 127, and your dog's not going to know what to do. You're most likely not going to know what to do because emotionally you feel bad, but you have to think about the problem, right? So if you do that in a controlled context, yes, it sucks for the human, but you're getting ready for the type of stuff, right? And it sucks for your dog, but if you do that, you're then setting the foundation for...
I'll do it at the park when no one's around.
Yeah, you know, like it doesn't have to be like super busy or anything like that. Like just 127, what are you gonna do?
Right.
If she panics and goes crap and tries to book it, she's on the leash. I keep it on 127.
Right.
And I go, you're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And this is what no works. I don't say come. It's just a random 127. What are you gonna do? She's like, I'm gonna run. And I go, nope, that's not the right answer. And she's gonna go, this is incorrect. She's gonna see you. She's gonna go, I'm gonna just run to mom and see what happens. It turns off, and she goes, holy shit. If I ever feel that again, I'm gonna do this. This will be my first response because that's what turned it off. Okay. So in a realistic situation, you've already done it with her. You've already done it yourself. So emotionally, it's not that hard. And then I'll tell them, like, I recommend every once in a blue moon, you just randomly do it. So it's kind of like practicing that fire escape plan and hoping there's never a fire. You're not going to be perfect, obviously, but you're going to have a route or a path or some kind of baseline of, oh my God, it's happening. That's how we get out of it. Okay, that's how life works.
When should I do that with her?
I would wait a bit. I would give it maybe a couple of weeks so that we do all the foundational work. We do get that in her head. I've also had clients, like I had another client Same park as the one with the rabbit, their neighbors. Her dog, before our third class, which would have been recall, and we actually got this, we recorded it, and she was like, you know, he took off. My dog took off, and she's like, I don't know if this is correct, but I had to go to 127, and he yipped, but he ran straight to me. You know, we had not covered recall. And she's like, did I do anything wrong? And I was like, well, he booked it, and the scenario is, do I just see what happens, or do I gamble, you know, the 127 and getting my dog back and potentially preventing something, right? So it's either you lose or you gamble losing or winning, right? In her case, her dog came back, which is why we always start with heel, because heel sets the foundation for remote move to me, right? So that stuff happens. That's the stuff that people don't think about. You know, and the people that hate e-collar, they don't think about it. And I was like, that's real life scenarios. That's what people absolutely need those people. So my suggestion is you do a couple weeks of the practicing and all that to prime her. But if you find yourself in that situation where it's like you haven't done anything, but this is a tool, you can. Okay. Questions about that? No. So for the recall, the way we're practicing this is not realistic. Okay. So there's two ways of practicing this. If you're by yourself, does she have any prey drive? Yeah, like what? Squirrels, rabbits?
Squirrels, rabbits.
Is it pretty good, or is it like somewhere?
Like pretty good, like it has good prey drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, I don't know, it's like 5 out of 10.
Okay, so what we would want to do here.
20 is not high enough.
What we want to do here is.
The 20, she was like, whatever.
Now she's a bit more urgent. Yeah.
She's at 25.
So let's say she sees squirrels. You know, we go to the park for squirrels, whatever. I put her on the long leash, and I tell her break, and I just walk around her and I let her be Elsa. Let her be free. And maybe there's a few with squirrels. I use that to my advantage, where I'll let her go. I'm still holding, but I'll give her the full 30 feet, and then I ignore her. Okay, and just let her do her thing for 3 to 5 minutes, and then during that time, Elsa come, remote, to get her to come back to you. She's here, we wait, but she might get tempted to go back. Otherwise, if she stays, that's good. Then I'll say break, and let her go right back at it again. Okay, so I'm using the distraction as also a before. Okay. That's why dogs with prey drive are great to work with, because you have that, you know? If now that you start putting like that into play, what you might see is a dip. Okay, because she's gonna think, she's not gonna know if is it squirrels or is it the return that's causing the remote at the beginning, right? Okay. So you might see a dip in interest that's normal. So then
an interest in squirrels?
Yeah. Yeah, because now you're putting control into play, so it's not like a free-for-all anymore. Right? When it's a free-for-all, it's all great, but then when you start putting rules, the dog goes, oh, this isn't so fun anymore. So then I might ignore her for a bit, before I do the next one, right? So like, let's say we're gonna spend 30 minutes with Elsa. The first day I might go there, give her the full 30 minutes to speak Elsa, and do one recall at the very end, leash her up, heel, walk home, okay? The next day, I might do 3 recalls within 30 minutes. The next day, 1 recall, then 5, then 1, then 2. Like I'm randomizing how many I do, because if you practice 100 recalls every single time, she's going to get paranoid. She's not going to want to leave your side. Okay, and this is when you're solo. Okay, if you have someone to help you, okay.
I'll tell you when we're off camera.
It's okay. So, let's say you have a friend to help you. Okay, you can do as much as you want because you can force the disconnect. Okay, so when Enrique took her, you saw she right? So you have to wait till those nerves dial down, and then issue that recall. Okay. So it's not realistic, but it's better, right? You can make it more realistic if, like, let's say someone took Elsa and they start running away with Elsa, and then you issue the recall. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
So you can progressively make that 2-person exercise more realistic the way you practice it. We do it like this in the beginning to simplify it, right? Make it easy for the owner to practice, make it easy for the dog to understand the concept. So you have the beginning step. Once you feel like it's pretty solid, then I work on the first with the movement, you would start with walking away.
Okay.
And the recall, because running is the ultimate, right?
If she's running towards something, yeah.
Correct. Because that's realistic. Chasing something, running towards something she shouldn't, running away, she's scared.
Right.
Typically when people call their dog, it's when they're running away.
Right.
Okay? So we do walking first, and what we want to see is when we call Elsa, it's just boom. Right? There's no need for tension. She just responds to the cue, leads right away.
Okay.
Once we feel like, oh wow, that's really good, then I move to running away, and then I call her at random points.
Okay.
Okay? So the longer she runs away, again, technically, the more disconnected she should get. Chances are if it's with another human because of her attachment, right?
Yeah.
But if she were to be chasing something, like that's what I would use to my advantage, right?
Okay.
I had a client, he lived right across the street of this huge open lot, like probably like the length of Oz here, by the river, and every morning he said there'd be like a flock of 50 geese, and his dog had super crazy prey drive.
Yeah, she like that.
So he would, I think he had 100 for leash, and he would go and break the dog, and the dog would just shoot into the flock, and he would call the dog as it was running, as it barely got to the geese, when it was in the middle of the geese, when it was like every scenario he had available to him, because this dog had super good, really good prey drive, that he didn't shut it down.
Okay.
So he was able to practice that control.
Yeah.
And then within a week or two, he's like, yeah, Jesse, I can call my dog from anything now because I had this perfect scenario for my dog.
True.
That's what we're trying to train for.
Okay.
So like always, your training is only as good as the environment you practice in.
Right.
That's why we like Oz, distractions. But also, recall takes the longest for most people to teach.
Yeah.
Because it requires you to go somewhere. Okay? And ideally somewhere that has distractions that you can use to your advantage.
Yeah.
So don't be discouraged if recall is taking longer.
Okay.
I think you're going to be fine just because from what I saw today, that was like really good. And in the because she's had previous training, right? Yeah. So there's a good foundation there.
Yeah.
Now what we're doing is just conditioning like remote means return.
Right.
So,
and I'm really curious if she had the remote collar on, she probably would have come back. Then with my parents' dog running towards, I think she still would have come back.
I think if you would have capped it or like hit her pretty like high, I think she would have stopped and ran off. Like either to you or off.
Right.
Okay? Because the way she responded right now, it's at 35 and stuff, because her operating number is like between the 10 to 20, right?
Yeah, it's like, it's been higher actually, more lately, because I think, I don't know, do they get used to like 15-ish?
Yeah, so what can happen?
Yeah, I've been it's at like 20.
Okay.
25.
And I've never had a dog, just so you know, get to a point where it was not effective. Because that's a concern, right? Some of you, like, they'll start off at 10, like, oh, the dog was great at 10, but now I'm at like 25.
Right.
And they're like concerned, like, is my dog gonna get too tough? I'm like, no, everybody has a breaking point.
Yeah.
It's normal. I'm like, 10 is, 15 or whatever is low.
That, like, yeah, I mean, 15, 20 would get her to sit or come up and like sit by me usually, but now 20, she's like, nah, I'd rather lay down than like.
Right.
Listen.
Yeah, and
So
you
then
just
now
play
it's
with
at
it.
25.
Yeah, so like right now when you tapped her for the lay down, but she's been sitting up that entire time.
Right.
So that's why we were talking about working number last time, finding that number that overrides everything first when you're in the new setting.
Right.
So at this way, let's say you don't assume 20's been the perfect number, then you go to a completely new place and 20's not going to work anymore.
Right.
Most people assume it. And then if should something happen and now you're at 20, now you got to figure out the situation. Whereas if I just come in and I go, okay, you're clearly distracted. What's my number here?
Right.
Oh, it's 45. All right, we're set.
Right.
Now go do your thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So when it comes to teaching with remote collar, the dogs learn the concepts very quickly.
Right.
It's just a matter of what number is going to make you adhere to the command in this setting.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, even like with 40, 50 for if she's barking, if another dog's barking at her and she's barking back, like that wasn't really working. So then I went up to like 60 and she was like, okay. Like,
sure. Now, were you moving when this was happening or were you stationary?
Stationary.
Okay, so that's good. So it's harder to control reactivity or de-escalate when you're moving.
Yeah.
Because the walking keeps them in that momentum.
Right.
So that's why my first thing was, if I can, stop.
I'm trying to think, maybe I was. I have it like ramped up just when we're in the elevator and stuff. But yeah, I guess if she's been sitting by me, she's been okay. So maybe it's when we're walking.
Okay. Yeah. This week,
Yeah.
make a note of that.
Yeah.
If you see it happen, And so, because when you're moving, it again keeps the momentum that the dog will just keep kind of going back and forth. Whereas when you're stationary, you just shut them down completely, right? And when it's a dog being reactive to her, that's going to be harder.
Yeah, that's honestly the only time where she's been doing that. I mean, except when the attack thing happened like a week ago, but
Sure.
usually she'll only react if a dog is like barking and growling at her.
Sure.
Like, makes sense.
So what I would do
Yeah.
is assume that nothing's going to work with 60 now.
Okay.
So when you step aside, and I always assume,
Yeah.
makes life easier. The dog's going to pass by, I'm going to step aside, I'm going to assume this dog's going to be reactive. Short my leash, all that stuff, you're ready. This way you're not wasting time, because it could be a non-reactive dog, obviously.
Right.
But you don't know that.
Right.
So then I just prep for it, and I know the last time it didn't work until I hit 60.
Right.
So I'm going to be right at 60. Because for Elsa, like let's say it took you, 10 seconds to get from 20 to 60 and stop the reactivity.
Yeah.
For her, those 10 seconds are worth it. And you're trying to make it not worth it from the beginning.
So if it's at 60 and we're like walking and then,
Right.
so can I let her break and then like lay down?
Yeah.
Okay, break. Lay down. So if it's at 60 and I'm walking and then like the dog's not reactive and it's fine, but then she's not healing properly, it feels like mean to have her at 60.
You would, yeah. So you have your behavior number and you have your obedience number.
Right.
So it's when you step aside, you're at 60.
Yeah.
Once it passes, nothing happens. I go back to 20, 25.
Right. But if she's like, if we're walking and she's kind of like either slightly pulling towards the dog or whatever, then I can do that at 60, right?
Yeah. You can technically do it at any number.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because part of me wants to use the 60 for when she's like growling and barking back, but sometimes it's like she's walking and then I'll be walking with her, and then the dog passes and then she'll just kind of like
Right.
look around or whatever.
You just gave it away.
What?
What did we talk about earlier? About the reactivity and stuff.
Her looking around.
Okay.
What about?
You catch it, Enrique?
The putting yourself to the side.
Yeah, being stationary.
Oh.
You just said, I'm walking, and she's growling and barking.
Okay.
So you are in movement.
Okay, yeah.
So stationary.
Okay.
Stationary at this phase is the easiest. Okay?
To have her just to sit and wait
Yes.
while the other dog passes?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay? So just assume we see a dog, step aside,
Yeah.
she auto sits, shorten your leash in case.
And then she just like stares the dog down.
Tap
That's
that.
fine. And she
Tap
stares
that.
it down?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because, it's like if you're walking, right? Oh, I'm walking, right? I'm just somebody. Right?
That's what she does.
It's the same thing.
Okay.
It's the one.
So should she just not be looking at the dog?
I don't care what she does.
Okay.
I don't care if she goes
Do I have her at 60 then if she's like staring the dog down?
Yep. Because that's where it's set at, right? Because what's going to happen is technically we would be lower because it's a lower degree behavior.
Yeah.
But what can happen is, let's say you're at 25, you tap, and then she blows up. Now you got to jack it up to 60, right? So what we do is harsher corrections for small infractions. Okay. So then she's like, shit, I don't even want to look at those, right? So then what you'll see is she'll be looking, and the dog comes, and she'll be like this.
Okay.
And she might get up and turn around.
Okay.
You would allow that.
Okay.
Okay. It's disobedience.
Right.
But behavior
Better
supersedes,
behavior, yeah.
yes, obedience, always, okay? In this stage.
Right.
As we get further along, we can start being more demanding and saying like, no, you're not going to avoid this, you're going to just allow this to happen, and you're not going to adjust.
Right.
But in the beginning, I allow the dog the decision, so they understand that there is another option outside of fight response. Because we have fight, flight, avoidance, submission. So that there's a dog, this is avoidance.
Right.
So it's like if you go to the store, and you see an ex-boyfriend or you see someone you don't want to talk to, you go down another aisle.
Right.
It's avoidance behavior.
Right.
Okay? So when we deal with aggressive type responses, we always want to see avoidance.
Yeah.
Always. So let's say I'm walking with the dog, I have no other means, I don't have the means of stepping aside, and I have a reactive dog, and they know not to go into conflict, and they're going to go into avoidance, they'll do this.
Yeah.
And they'll go behind me, without my telling them to.
Yeah.
Don't naturally just go to the right side. You're like, I want to avoid the situation.
Right.
We pass it up, and then you'll see them place themselves right back. Okay?
Yeah.
Naturally.
I feel like maybe I should have her on the Well, now I'll just have her sit and stay stationary. But before, I think I was just having her go on the right, or I would go to the left side of the sidewalk, and they would like.
Yeah. So the reason for the stepping aside
Yeah.
is you're teaching Elsa that this can pass, and that's like nothing bad's gonna happen unless she acts out that she's gonna get corrected.
Right.
So we build from stationary to movement.
Okay.
Right? So it's first just tolerate dogs walking by. And then let's say you get reactive dogs, big dogs, small dogs, high energy dogs, and a simplicity. Right?
Or
You
she's still staring at the dog.
Oh.
That's fine.
No, but she's passive though. Like she's not staring. She's like, if you look at her eyes, she's kind of like concerned.
Right.
Okay? That's fine. So once she gets used to seeing all this happening, being stationary, then we build to now we're gonna walk by
Okay,
dogs.
I think I just, because we were sitting, but maybe I just did that the first week or two, and then.
Yeah, I keep it going, and then I didn't see you for a while, right?
Yeah.
I keep it going until I get consistency.
Okay, where she's not lunging. Okay.
Yeah.
And even if another dog like barks and growls towards her,
gonna
she
go.
does it. Yeah.
So it does take longer,
Yeah.
because on the spectrum of reactivity, human reactivity is almost always the first thing that disappears. You know, bikers, runners, joggers, all that
Right,
stuff.
right,
Then it's reactivity towards calm dogs, then reactivity towards excited dogs, puppy type energy. Other reactive dogs or sudden run into dogs, end of spectrum.
right. Yeah.
Okay, that
that's
takes the
where-
longest.
Yeah, that's
So it's like if you turn the corner dog, right, because you can't plan for it, or it's too sudden. Okay? If it's too sudden, it's just by surprise,
right.
and you can't plan for it. You can't plan for it, so that's what makes it harder.
Okay.
Or if you get another reactive dog, typically that owner wants to remove themselves as well.
Right.
So if you don't shut her down by the time this dog is gone, she thinks her barking that the dog will leave.
Right, right. And
Right.
She's like protecting me.
Correct. So then we reinforce the behavior.
Okay.
In my book, there's no right or wrong. It's just what's going to make the owner feel better and give the owner the most confidence and control.
Okay.
So we have a lady here whose dog was super reactive the first week, and the second class was complete 180.
Really. Okay.
Yeah,
We
and
need to come to the pack walk more too.
oh sure,
But I hadn't conditioned her with the muzzle or like.
she would actually be fine to come. Even like with her, if we were doing more socialization stuff, I would say definitely bring that muzzle. But her reactivity, what I've seen, like she'd be fine to come like how she is now.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
So if you want to come as your condition, you can do
Okay.
that.
Okay.
If we were to do any kind of socialization stuff, which we've done with a couple of dogs,
Yeah.
if she's not muzzled, we would keep her out because there's liability there.
Can we do socialization stuff with her?
Yeah.
Okay.
We just need the muzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Be better about that this week.
what was I saying about? So for that particular client, we've been working with her for 5 weeks. She's had 3 classes because she's had to reschedule a bit,
Yeah.
and she still steps aside, even though her dog is like super good.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't care because that makes her feel better. That makes her feel like she's got the most control. So I go, you do it as long as you need to. You can do it for the rest. Like I have another client that's been doing it ever since I taught it to him.
Yeah.
And her dog's great, but they feel more comfortable.
How far away do they do it like when the other person's walking?
Oh, you mean like on the sidewalk and stuff?
Yeah.
It's just the edge of curb.
No, I mean like.
Oh, how much in advance?
Right.
It depends on the person. If I know I have a super reactive dog, I would do it the moment I acknowledge that other dog. You know, probably at maximum for me, at least half a block away. You know, unless I see the dog's already locked on. If it's greater than half a block away, I'd already step aside, so I can start disengaging from 3/4 of a block away or a block away, because it's already in their head. The more I ignore that, the more it builds up. Yeah. But yeah, and then once you feel like, oh wow, she's seen everything now, she's not being reactive, or it's very, very infrequent, then I go to walking past dogs. But then you can utilize space to your advantage. So if it's like, if you're walking by and someone has their dog, if they're on your right side, and it's person, dog, right? Person, dog,
Right.
then I'd hug over like this.
Yeah, the left on the left side is like the worst with sidewalks. It's literally like people, dog, dog.
Right, so then what you would do there,
Yeah.
if you needed to pass by, is as you're walking, you would just hand her over from behind to your right side,
Yeah.
shorten that leash, and give it the space that you can to create a buffer. Okay? And then once you pass it up, you would switch back. That's okay because it's on your terms.
Right.
What I don't want is Elsa shifting sides, because then that becomes a bunch of craziness.
Right, right. 'Cause, yeah, on her terms.
Right.
Okay.
Other questions?
No. Oh, should I start doing the squirrel thing this week with like?
But yeah, you can start that right away.
And if she's like barking and trying to get the squirrel and stuff, like that's fine.
Yeah,
Just let her live.
just let her. Like the more she does that, the more disconnected she gets from you. So I'll give her like 5 minutes
Yeah.
of getting lost in squirrel heaven, and then it's like Elsa come, right? And if it takes you a lot of taps, then we're too low. You know, then you play with going higher, and then let her be free and have at it for another 10 minutes. You know, and then sometimes I'll just drag them back instead of calling them, so I don't kill that drive, so I can keep utilizing it for my recall exercises.
Right, okay.
But yeah, you can start that as soon as this week.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you go somewhere and it's like a bland environment, you know, then I just meander for a bit, let her get distracted, you know, kind of just disconnect and stuff, and then very infrequently practice here and there.
Okay. But always keep her on the 30-foot leash.
Yes, always keep it in your hand just in case. There's stages to this. Right now we're in the long leash stage, and when you hold it, what I'll do is I'll loop the handle around my thumb.
Yeah.
So when you close it, you don't get rope burn.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So just put that handle over your thumb, and then you close your hand. Yeah. And now you've locked your leash.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can even shorten it and do the same thing when you wrap it around.
Yeah.
You know, so then you end up locking it, and she doesn't have the full 30 feet.
Right.
And that'll prevent her from, again, feeding that leash through and burning it.
Okay.
Okay? Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, and then we'll be here next week. And then I think I'll email Maria. I think